Things we wish Jesus hadn't said. My name is David Madison, the 16th of April, 2020. I was a Methodist minister for 9 years. I have a graduate degree in theology and a PhD in biblical studies. But I do have to hand it to Mark Twain for getting it right when he said that the best cure for Christianity is reading the Bible. So let's take a close look and see why Mark Twain was absolutely correct. The Gospels portray Jesus constantly arguing with religious authorities. In Matthew 22, we find a question posed to Jesus by the Sadducees. A woman had married 7 brothers, because the law provided that if a man died, she could marry his brother, and she had gone through 7 of them. So the question, at the time of the resurrection of the dead, who will she be married to? Jesus answered them, "You are wrong, because you know neither the Scriptures nor the power of God. For in the resurrection they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like angels in heaven." Can we take this seriously? Depends, doesn't it? Secular historians say that Jesus was a Galilean peasant preacher, and a lot that he taught has been proven wrong by history. He told the people at his trial that they would see him coming on the clouds of heaven when the kingdom of God arrived. Never happened. He was wrong. Why should we trust him that he knew anything about what goes on in the afterlife, that he, opposed to the Sadducees, knew the power of God, as he put it? Religious leaders in many different religions have claimed to know about heaven, for which there is no evidence whatever. But they claim to know, and they get a lot of people to believe them. The other way to view Jesus, of course, is that he was the Son of God. He is part of the Trinity. So of course he knows what heaven is like. This is what the church has pushed for centuries. And when you get this message as a toddler, it's hard to just say no. But there is no evidence for this theology either, any more than there is evidence for heaven or afterlife. What Jesus says here, claiming insider information on heaven, has been typical of cult leaders forever. If you want us to respect Jesus, this is surely something you wish Jesus hadn't said. Then there's the next part of this Jesus response, verses 31 and 32. Quote, "And as for the resurrection of the dead, which Jesus accepted, have you not read what was said to you by God? I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. He is God not of the dead, but of the living." Unquote. This is silly word game theology, using the tense of the verb I am as evidence for the afterlife. Belief in heaven or afterlife was not part of Old Testament belief at all. Those ancient theologians knew that when you died, you were dead. The soul lingered for a while perhaps, but then, poof, you were gone. Afterlife belief crept into Judaism in the last centuries before Jesus. So there was no such thing as believing that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were still alive in heaven. But Jesus and Paul, both of them, fell for the afterlife fantasy, and in their case it was revenge theology. That is, you can end up in hell forever to face God's fire and wrath. Come on, folks, this is cheap cult propaganda, far beneath the moral standards we would expect from the Son of God. So these few verses of bad theology in Matthew 22, these are things we wish Jesus hadn't said.